Hi, I'm Stacy from Stacy Creates Stuff. Welcome to my weekly vlog. This week I've been busy, although maybe not quite as busy as the previous week, but still a lot was going on. So there's quilting, there's cross stitch, there's a little organization. Let's get going. Since I saw you on my vlog last week, I released a video on my quilting fail. Actually, it was a question, quilting fail? And the answer is not 100% fail, but not 100% success. And that is because, of course, my quilt that I quilted on my home machine, it didn't lay flat. So many of you commented, and I appreciate that, to try some starch. So I now have to get some starch, and I think I'm going to give that a try. But as I said in that video, not a total loss. It's not a big quilt. It isn't even one that I like, which is why I started with that one. So I'm not upset at all that, it had a little bit of a issue. So the quilting itself, I was very pleased with. And it just, it has bias triangle edges on each middle side, and those are what kind of stretched. So I have a couple of different ways to, from suggestions from you all on how to avoid that issue in the future. So I'm going to give some of those a try because I have another quilt that is just like this one in a different colorway. So that is that. Then in the early part of the week, I was still doing some prepping for the in-person workshop that I taught on Thursday. So I cut all my fabric. I wrote my checklist. I double-checked my checklist to make sure that I had all the things that I would need for the workshop, and made a big mess is really what I did. But I had everything organized and packed together for the workshop, so that part was good. But my cutting table, a little bit of a disaster. So I took a few minutes to refold the fabric, and I do have a couple of tutorials on how I have organized my fabric and how I use these templates to fold my fabric so they fit the correct width for where they are. And what may not be as obvious in those videos is that I reuse these over and over. I do not keep them in the fabric. So I know there are a lot of quilters out there who use the comic book boards, which are similar to this. I've cut this one down from that size, and they wrap their fabric and then they stack them, like bolts. These are actual bolts on actual bolt cardboard, which is fine, and that is great, and that is probably way easier to get things in and out. But I am perfectly fine with my fabric being all horizontal. So none of my stacks are too tall. This is on the bottom. There's a shelf right below this piece here, which you can barely see on my hand. So this is the tallest of the stacks. If I pull a lot of stuff out, I just take off the stack and straighten it back up and push it back in. So all good there. If you've been watching my channel for a little bit now, you know that I am running a Block of the Week series called Patching the Hole in the Barn Door. And this week we had Block 3. And next week we have Block 4, of course. And it's not too late to join. Each week a new block is released. And if you sign up for my email list, specifically for that block of the week, then each week you will get the instructions for the block. And here is the little hint for Block 4, which will be released on Wednesday. So if you're on the email list, you'll get Block 4's instructions Wednesday morning, Eastern time in the US is the time zone that basing that off of. And then on Wednesday evenings at 8 p.m. Eastern time, the video instructions for that block are released on YouTube, and anybody can access that. But the actual cutting instructions and all that good stuff, you need to have via email. There's your hint for block 4. So it's particularly important that you're on the email list in order to get the template. And I will have a video coming out before Wednesday on how you can use a cutting machine to whip up your own in whatever size you want. Speaking of hexies, I have added a few to my random rail fence quilt. So there's a few up there, a little guy over here, oh, bigger one down here, and one in the works. Well, that's where one is planning to go, in there. I did not get this fully slow stitched before my workshop. It was part of the workshop, but it was good. It was fine. People were interested in that process that I was doing, so it was fun, and they could see what an outcome could be. It's all good. So speaking of the workshop, that is what I did on Thursday. So it was a little local guild here in my area, and it was the first time that I had taught in person in a long time. So it was great. I was a little nervous because I had to haul my stuff there, and the last in-person workshop that I did was in my own shop where all my stuff was. So it's always good to have all your stuff. But I didn't forget anything. Yay. And it went great. They had a great time. I have a couple of pictures of some of their quilt blocks that they made. Some were able to sew some blocks together, and others were just made blocks that then they're going to work on at their leisure. So I gave them 3 choices, but they could move beyond that. The workshop was called Crazy Cuts, and it is taking a traditional block and not measuring, but just starting with a stack of square or square-ish pieces and making the cuts like you would for the traditional block, but not measuring. So on the rail fence, for instance, this is a 3-piece rail fence. Let me find one that's a little easier to see the 3 pieces. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, but you can see they're not perfectly rectangular parallel seams here. I have cut them on angles, and I do have a tutorial for the random rail fence already up. There's the link there. All the links for anything that I am showing you are also going to be in the description, so have no fear. You will find the link somewhere. But that video is up on my channel currently. The other 2 blocks that I demonstrated were the shoe fly and the churn dash. So the churn dash is akin to the hole in the barn door, which, if you haven't guessed now, is one of my favorite blocks. And this is one that I had sewn up as a sample, and I liked it so much I decided that I needed to make a whole little quilt with it. So I have some pieces in progress, obviously missing the last row, as you were, but I will have a tutorial on I call it the wild churn dash, coming soon, probably another week or so, and I will have that video here on my channel as a tutorial as well. On Friday, I released my very first floss tube. If you are not familiar with floss tube, it is Cross Stitchers YouTube. It's on YouTube. You can just search for floss tube, and you will have thousands, tens of thousands of videos to choose from to watch. And it's a community of cross stitchers who show you what they're working on, what they want to work on, what they've finished, what they've fully finished. That means it's all stitched and framed or turned into a pillow or whatever. Like, it's done. This is the project that I have been working on for more than 30 years and is my only work in progress for cross stitch. But I plan to remedy that because I am far, far behind. So I have cross stitched other things and completed them like fully finished them back when I was in my 20s. I started cross stitch probably when I was 6 or 7 years old. So I did a bunch when I was in high school and college and just after college. And then I started this project, and that was all. And then I put it away and I didn't touch it for like 15 or 18 years. So I got it out a couple years ago, did some work on it, and have dusted it off once again. So I'm planning to continue on it. It has a lot of, well, not a lot. It has some issues. One is the cloth that I used. I used an Aida cloth. It really should have been done on an even weave, but that's okay. I have a workaround. I'm not going to scrap it. I've already spent hours and hours, and I still like it. I think that's a really important part of continuing with a work in progress or an unfinished project is if you still like it, then keep working on it and figure out what you can do to salvage it if it has some issues. So I've got that figured out. But since my favorite part of, well, all crafting is designing and engineering things, I, of course, have decided to create and design my own cross stitch. Not exclusively. I have some cross stitch patterns on order, and I'm planning a visit to the local needlework shop in the next week or two and see what patterns they have. Because I've been out of the cross stitch little world, well, kind of before the internet. So many things to find now. I'm very excited. So that's happening. Like I said, I did my first floss tube. I plan to do some more. They will be separate from the vlog. My vlog usually encapsulates what I've done that past week, so it might mention cross stitch as it has this time, but it won't be fully focused on cross stitch. And if you are a cross stitcher, then you'll want to be looking for the floss tubes. But I've also found that a lot of floss tubers are also quilters or embroiderers, or they do other crafts too. So, I'm a multi-craft kind of gal. And that about wraps up this week. So, I've got lots of videos planned for the coming week. Just have to get them made. So I hope you are having a crafty week, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.